After finishing digging dandelions and returning home, I caught sight of a stack of cash and a bank card on the table. It seemed that the wealthy husband I had picked up 5 years ago was about to be taken back. I didn't cling to him and beg to go with him in my past life. He took our daughter, Dowdu, and another village orphan, Yan Jing, leaving me with only a few reassuring words. Lu Hua, these 5 years have been hard on you. I'll take Dowdu back first, seeing her granddaughter will put my mother in a good mood, and maybe then she'll accept you. But until the day I died, I never saw him return. This time, I don't want to waste any more time. While sharpening the knife in the side room, I overheard my husband Meng Qing Luo talking with our daughter. Pack everything you need, and say a proper goodbye to mom tonight. Through the gap in the door, I saw Dowdu tugging at his hand, her face full of confusion. Why do I have to say goodbye? Isn't mom coming with us to the city, Dad? Does this mean Yan Jing will be my mom from now on? Meng Qing Luo opened his mouth, but couldn't utter a single word. 5 years ago, he drove drunk, fell off a cliff on a mountain road, and lost his memory. I found him and brought him home. Having been pampered since childhood, he couldn't do farm work, let alone simple household chores like cooking, picking vegetables, or washing dishes. I silently bore all the burdens, taking care of him like a child for an entire year. The next year, gossip began to spread through the village. They said I was shameless, letting a strange man stay overnight in my home. In the end, it was the village chief, who had watched me grow up, who personally stepped in and forced Meng Qing Luo to marry me. But even then, the ceremony was simple, and we never even got a marriage certificate. The jeering voices outside jolted me from my memories. I went out to see who it was. Just a few old aunties from the village. They had heard that Meng Qing Luo, the wealthy young master, was about to be taken back home. They can't wait to come over and get a piece of the good fortune. The Meng family cares about appearances, so they'll naturally give. Each of the aunts took a thick stack of cash, their smiles stretching from ear to ear as they showered compliments. I could tell all along that Lu Hua was no ordinary person. She's blessed, not just blessed, but also sharp-eyed. Back then, Lu Hua brought Qing Luo home for treatment without a second thought and took care of him closely for so long. It wasn't easy. From now on, when we go to the city, don't pretend you don't know us. Meng Qingluo's expression turned extremely awkward. Even Dowdu was a bit at a loss. I was the only one who let out a soft chuckle. While digging Shepherd's Purse today, I saw several wild ginseng plants growing by the cliff. Aunt Li teased, "You're about to follow Qing Luo to the city and live the good life. Why bother picking wild ginseng? What if you fall and hurt yourself, then how can you be the daughter-in-law of a wealthy family?" The driver from the Meng family was anxious to take him back, but Meng Qing Luo said to wait. Looking toward the entrance of the village, everyone thought he was waiting for me. Only I knew he was actually waiting for the woman in his heart, Yan Jing. So when I heard Aunt Li's words, I couldn't help but smile bitterly. What's so good about being a wealthy family's daughter-in-law? It's not as good as those wild ginseng plants on the cliff too. When I came back, Yan Jing was sitting on the lounge chair in my yard, holding Dowdu and singing nursery rhymes. Dowdu needs to learn a bit of everything. Children from wealthy families are all highly accomplished and know all sorts of things. She taught one line, and Dowdu sang it back. The two of them looked quite proper. Meng Qing Luo had been writing by the window, but now she put down her brush and looked up with a smile. At that moment, I felt like an outsider barging into their warm, cozy life. Yan Jing was one of the few non-Shan villagers in our Shan family village. Her father died young, and her mother worked away from home. A few years ago, for some reason, her mother took her away. We all thought her mother had made money and taken her off to a better life, but it wasn't long before she came back again. I'd seen the pitiful sight of her being bullied as a child because she had no father, and I'd seen her dejection when she returned to the village for the second time. So at first, I did feel a bit of sympathy for her. Then one time during a heavy rain, Dowdu got lost in the mountains and sprained her ankle. Yan Jing was the one who saw her and carried her back. When she brought the child home, Meng Qing Luo was reading. After I carried the child inside, she came over and glanced in. "Brother Meng knows so much. It's a pity he lives here." After that, Yan Jing started coming to our house every few days. The way she addressed him had gradually shifted from Brother Meng to Qing Luo Ji, and finally to just Qing Luo. There were many times I came back after finishing my work. Meng Qing Luo even took the roe from the fish I had cooked and gave it to Yan Jing. Yan Jing, a bit embarrassed, waved her hand and declined. "This is for you, made by Lu Hua. How could I possibly eat it myself?" Dodo quickly chimed in. "Auntie Jing, eat it quickly. My dad says fish roe is a treasure that should only be given to the best people, and Auntie Jing is the best, for the sake of The two of them, father and daughter, I would leave early and return late every day to pick wild vegetables and ginseng, and sometimes even set traps to hunt on my own just so they could eat a little better. In early spring, right after the ice broke on the river, I jumped in to catch fish, and now they're taking what's mine to ingratiate themselves with another woman in my past life. I broke down on the spot and confronted them, but Meng Qingluo frowned with displeasure, shielding Yan Jing as she said, "I'm sorry, Lu Hua is from the countryside and doesn't know proper manners." As if I had brought shame to him, Daodu even slammed down his chopsticks and said, "Mom, it's no big deal. Can you please stop embarrassing us?" Yan Jing gently but firmly held Daodu's hand. "Be good, Daodu, you can't speak to your elders like that." Daodu's eyes reddened. "I'm sorry, Aunt Jing. I just feel so bad for you." Yan Jing looked up at me, her eyes full of composure and triumph. At that moment, all I felt was a pang of sorrow. Yan Jing's skin was fair and tender, like a freshly peeled bamboo shoot, standing next the tall and graceful Meng Qingluo. No matter how you looked at it, they just didn't match. That was why, in the previous life, when Meng Qingluo brought Yan Jing and Daodu home, no one ever doubted that Yan Jing was Daodu's real mother. 3. Meng Qingluo saw me carrying the bamboo basket on my back and couldn't help frowning and covering her nose. Every time I came back from work, he would say that I smelled of earthy soil. But seeing the wild ginseng in my basket and the bloodstains on my arms and legs, he felt a little guilty. "Did you really go up the mountain to pick that ginseng? The cliff is too dangerous. If you fall and break a leg, it wouldn't be worth it. And didn't I give you money? Why make unnecessary hardships for yourself?" His voice grew softer and softer. Perhaps out of a guilty conscience, I gave a cold smile. "I'm used to it. I just can't stay idle." With that, I went back into the inner room to make prayer sachets. Meng Qingluo said he couldn't sleep well in the village. He had too many dreams at night, so I often made calming prayer sachets myself and hung them on the mosquito net. When Daodu saw them, he asked with disgust, "Mom, why are you still doing this? There are all kinds of fine incense in the city. Dad won't have insomnia or bad dreams anymore." That's right, the Meng family always had a sense of superiority. In my previous life, before they left, I reluctantly stuffed things into the car, but before the car even left the village, those things were tossed out. Aunt Li saw them, picked them up, and brought them back to my house. She kept exclaiming, "Lu Hua, I told you a long time ago, city folks aren't reliable. If you had just settled down with someone in the village, you wouldn't have ended up like this." But at the time, I just thought it was my mother-in-law refusing to accept a country girl as her daughter-in-law, so I worked even harder, thinking I'd earn more money. After wandering in the mountains for 3 days and 2 nights, I finally managed to kill a wild boar, dragged it into the village, and exchanged it for some money. I immediately had a phone installed at home, but every time I called Daodu, she sounded very impatient. "I'm going to ballet class. Aunt Jing is waiting to take me to violin lessons." I couldn't help myself, so I secretly went to the city to see her. She clearly saw me when school let out, but she turned and ran straight into Yan Jing's arms. Then the two of them happily got into that luxury car I had never even seen before. After that, I never went there again, not until she graduated from college. I was diagnosed with cancer. The doctor said treatment was no longer necessary and told me to go home and make final arrangements. I called Meng Qingluo. He fell silent. Maybe we could try a major hospital in a bigger city. But I didn't want any more treatment. I only wanted to see my daughter. When I showed up at her graduation ceremony, she looked at my haggard appearance without a trace of concern. Instead, she said angrily, "Don't you know how important this graduation ceremony is to me? Why did you have to come? You'll make me a laughingstock." Meng Qingluo stood by, watching, and didn't say a word. In that moment, I realized she was no longer my daughter. She was a young lady raised in a wealthy, prominent family. What she needed was a graceful, well-mannered, and proper mother, not a rural woman like me. Amid the clamor of drums and gongs, I was driven out of the school gate. Just a few steps later, I suddenly coughed up a mouthful of blood and died right there on the street. No one dared to get involved. Even my corpse had strips of flesh torn off by stray dogs. So now, I no longer insist on preparing things for them to take back. I merely said calmly, "These are for the children at the school." When my father was alive, he took in several children to teach. After he died, those children had nowhere to go, so they stayed on at the old school. I visit them occasionally, bring them things, and help guide their studies. But Meng Qingluo never paid any attention to me, so naturally she had no idea about any of this. Dodo was taken aback. I have always been very good to her. Normally, even when she said unpleasant things, I would just smile and let it go. Yet today, I spoke to her with such cold harshness. Somewhat displeased, she said, "They're just a few wild kids. Why do you have to make These for them, besides, they're country folk, do they even need these sachets? How pretentious. But compared to Dodo, those few children at the schoolhouse actually seemed closer to me. You're my mom, why are you so concerned about those stray kids? Fine, I don't want your concern anyway, I'm going to go find Aunt Jing. She said she'd teach me English. Mom, do you know English? I didn't even look up. I don't. She was taken aback again. In the past, I probably would have been so upset by her fondness for Yan Jing that I'd cry. After all, she is my own daughter. When I gave birth to her, I had a difficult labor and a severe vaginal tear, but I never gave up. I always believed my daughter was the hope of my life, but in the end, it was my daughter who dealt me the heaviest blow. 5 After Dada left in a huff, pouting as if throwing a tantrum, Meng Qing Luo leaned against the doorframe with her arms crossed, looking at me. Lu Hua, are you angry? If you're upset, take it out on me. Don't take it out on the child. I told you I'd come get you as soon as I could. What do you have to be angry about? Angry? I felt dazed for a moment. In my past life, after they left, I went to the edge of the village every day to watch and wait. I thought he would truly return as promised to take me with him, but in the end, I never got to see him again. Now he has the nerve to ask me what I have to be upset about. When a person lies so often, do they eventually start believing themselves? After a while, the sound of a car horn suddenly came from outside. Someone started wailing loudly before they even made it through the door. My son, oh my son, I've missed you so much. Meng Qing Luo and I exchanged a glance, then both stood up and walked outside. My son, I haven't seen you for 5 years. How did you end up living in a place like this, stinky and filthy? How much have you suffered? Old Madam Meng, her eyes red, hugged Meng Qing Luo and looked him up and down for quite a while. Only after she had calmed down did she notice me standing beside her. With just one look, she staggered back several steps, slumped to the ground, and covered her eyes, refusing to look at me. Go away, get away. Everyone was momentarily stunned. I knew that a family like the Mengs would most likely look down on me, but I never expected our first meeting to be like this. To appease the old lady, Meng Qing Luo shot me an unconscious glare and waved me away. Yet before I could step out the door, I ran straight into Yan Jing, who had just rushed over. But contrary to her usual behavior, she didn't provoke me. Instead, she went straight to old Mrs. Meng. Ma'am, are you alright? Does it hurt anywhere? Let me help you up. Oh dear, I heard you fall as soon as I got to the door. It scared me to death. Old Mrs. Meng was famously picky about people, so she despised me, and everyone just stood there awkwardly, not knowing what to do. But what surprised everyone even more was that the elderly lady, known for her obsessive cleanliness, didn't push Yan Jing away. Instead, her eyes sparkled with light. She joyfully took Yan Jing's hand. Even though it was their first meeting, the old lady acted as if she were reuniting with an old friend from ancient times after a long separation. My darling, what are you doing here? 6 It was only long after the incident that I learned Yan Jing bore a striking resemblance to the granddaughter of old Mrs. Meng's childhood sweetheart from her younger days. The little girl was frail and died of heart disease at 11 years old. That was why Meng Qing Luo in her previous life insisted on bringing Yan Jing back to the Meng family. So even though Yan Jing was also a country girl, the Meng family readily agreed to their marriage. The moment I learned the truth, I felt deeply sorrowful. Why is it that both of us are women, yet my fate is so full of hardships? My mother caught a chill when she gave birth to me, and she passed away before I was even a month old. My father raised me until I was 15, then a flash flood struck the village, and he was swept away and drowned while trying to save others. His body was never found. All he left me were a few orphans from the schoolhouse, this rundown house, and several baskets of his books. After carrying Meng Qing Luo home on my back, the pressure of life grew even heavier. Not only did I have to pick wild vegetables to sell for money, but I also learned to scale cliffs to pick lingji mushrooms. I went up the mountains to hunt and down the rivers to fish. There was nothing I couldn't do. As days and months passed, my skin became dark and rough. But before my father died, I was a gentle and well-behaved little beauty. I had a deeper kind of quietness than Yan Jing. Yet later, when I saw Yan Jing again, I couldn't even compare to a single strand of her hair. She wore an expensive dress and lambskin high heels, making no sound as she walked. When she gracefully sat down, she exuded an irresistible charm. She knew I had gone to the school to find Dowdo, and came specifically to see me. Sister Lu Hua, you and Qing Luo are two completely different kinds of people. You should be content with those 5 years. As for Dowdo, she wants to be a rich man's daughter. How could she have a country woman like you as her mother? Her words reminded me of how the Meng father and daughter treated me. What was I after when I tried so hard to save Meng Qingluo back then? Was it just to be looked down upon by her and her father all along? After that meeting, I never appeared in their lives again until I finally died a miserable death reborn into this new life. I will never again put all my thoughts and efforts into them. I'll treat that heartless husband and daughter as if they died long ago. 7. On the day they left, Meng Qingluo gave me a plain silver ring. Throughout these years of our marriage, I had mentioned more than once how much I wanted a wedding ring, but he said that was something only city ladies could have. A country bumpkin like you, who are you trying to impress? But now that he's given it to me, I don't feel like taking it at all. Meng Qingluo's smile carried a hint of condescension. Is it because I'm leaving that you're still angry? In the past, I would have already been screaming my lungs out over Yan Jing's matter. I argued with him more than once, but he never offered me any comfort. He only said that I didn't understand. The bond between us transcends romantic love. Do not use your sordid thoughts to speculate about us. I sneered at the time. Oh, really? So her crying in your arms and you kissing her forehead, those are also pure gestures beyond romantic love. Unreasonable. He stormed off in a huff. Later, I also found and read the book left behind by my father, but when I recited the line, who knows, year after year on the night of Red Lotus, we each pine in silence, knowing the other's heart. Meng Qingluo only paused for a moment, then gave a contemptuous smile. Lu Hua, go gather some wild vegetables. Back then, I thought he was being considerate of me. Only later did I realize that he looked down on me. He thought it was impossible for me to understand Tang poetry. In fact, those lines were never difficult for me to grasp. A ring was not really expensive to him, yet in the previous life, he had always been reluctant to spend that money. So in this life, I no longer care for it at all. A wedding ring symbolizes loyalty. He is not loyal to marriage and not devoted to love. I don't care for his wedding ring. Seeing that I still hadn't reached out, Meng Qingluo looked a bit surprised. Just then, the Meng family began to urge. Meng Qingluo sighed helplessly. Give it to me. 8. What? I frowned, confused. The sachet. I know you've prepared many other things, but I can only take 2 sachets back with me. It turned out he had always thought I was just trying to save face when I claimed those were made for the children. I said sarcastically. The car is too small, and I prepared too many things. I'm afraid they won't be easy for you to take along, so I've given them all away. The sachets I make are famous throughout the surrounding villages. The embroidery on them is incredibly lifelike. I also personally gather the herbs from the mountains, dry them thoroughly, and sew them inside. But since I usually have to make a living, I don't have much time to make them. The few I made in the past when I had time all hang by the bedside of the father and his daughter, but later, they lost all of them. Meng Qingluo still thought I was just putting on a brave front. Just then, the car window suddenly rolled down, and Dada leaned on Yan Jing's shoulder. Laughing, she urged Meng Qingluo to get into the car quickly. Meng Qingluo, feeling a bit guilty, scolded Dada. Why didn't you say goodbye to Mom? That's rude. Dada still remembered how cold I had been to her the day before, so she turned her face away and ignored me. But I caught a glimpse of the hairpin in Yan Jing's hair. Give it back. 9. My hair clip. Give it back to me. Yan Jing was taken aback, then took it off and threw it on the ground. This thing is a bit cheap. I almost forgot about it. But asking for a gift back. Lu Hua, you're the first one. At the time, she saved my daughter's life, and I had nothing to offer as thanks, so I gave her this hair clip. It's the only gift my father ever gave me while he was alive. That New Year's, he sold his pair of ancestral paperweights to buy me this hair clip. He said. Lu Hua, your mother said when she was alive that I must take good care of you. You've grown up so much, and Dad has never given you anything nice. The rhinestones on it sparkled brightly, and I usually can't bear to wear it. Dadu instantly felt embarrassed and let out a tisk. This father and daughter often act like that, treating money as if it means nothing. Whenever they see me haggling over petty gains, they always find it embarrassing. Yan Jing fits their expectations much better. Gentle and soft, generous and poised, she always had money ready whenever Dadu needed it. Buying her favorite clothes and candies, she also always had colorful hair ties in her hair. Over time, Dowda naturally grew close to her. With me, she became even more resistant. Later, Dowda developed a decayed tooth. One tooth was completely hollowed out, and she writhed in pain on the bed. Yan Jing was so worried she burst into tears. It's all my fault. I shouldn't have given her so much candy, but I just couldn't bear to see her go without. I was about to get angry when Meng Qinglu cut me off. I know you treat her like your own child. Seeing that, they really are more suitable for each other. 10. Just as Meng Qingluo turned to get into the car, she suddenly noticed that all of my medicinal herbs in the corner were gone. Even the sieve used for drying the herbs was missing. He stopped in his tracks, somewhat surprised. Where are all your treasures? I relied on those herbs and spices to cover most of the household expenses, but Meng Qingluo particularly hated those smells. I smiled faintly and said, threw them away. I had already decided to leave Xinjia village. Since I couldn't take these things with me, it was natural to dispose of them early. Most people in the village fawned on the powerful and looked down upon the weak, very snobbish. There was nothing worth missing. In my past life, I refused to leave because I believed Meng Qingluo's words that he would come back to fetch me, but this time, I knew he was lying to me. So naturally I understood that waiting was pointless. Yet Meng Qingluo sneered contemptuously, you should have thrown them away long ago. So now you know the Meng family has money, and you don't need your junk anymore, right? The money the Meng family gave you is more than enough for you to live worry-free here for the rest of your life. Urged on by Daodu, they finally left. In the end, my daughter never got to say goodbye to me, but then again, there was no need to say it, because she was no longer the precious daughter I had nearly died giving birth to. Though she was just over 3 years old, Yan Jing had already changed her beyond recognition. Unlike in the previous life, Meng Qingluo actually had a phone installed for me before she left. If you run into any trouble, just give me a call. But I don't know how to make a call. I won't take his money, either. I find it dirty. I want to go to a new place and live my own life. 11. The first night Meng Qingluo returned to the Meng family, he thought he would feel comfortable and at ease, and there was also a sense of relief. After all, he had finally gotten rid of Shenluhua and that backward, fishy-smelling mountain village, but he couldn't fall asleep even past midnight. He felt as if something was missing. Gazing at the luxurious ceiling, he felt an emptiness. Instead, he thought there should be a mosquito net, and in front of it, a sachet for blessings and peace of mind. The perfume scent in the room struck him as somewhat vulgar. He hardly slept a wink all night. When she woke up, her head felt a little dizzy, and there were dark circles under her eyes. She was still somewhat distracted throughout breakfast. Old Mrs. Meng felt a bit displeased when she heard Daodu smacking her lips while eating. Daodu, be quiet. Daodu felt a little aggrieved. Before, her mother would only serve her breakfast when she judged the temperature was just right. Seeing that the old lady was unhappy, Yan Jing offered to help. The old lady put down her chopsticks and said sternly, you're a grown-up. Don't you even know how to eat properly? How did your mother teach you? Yan Jing quickly shrank back and sat properly in her seat. Children are the best at reading expressions, and in that instant, she sensed that her grandmother did not like her. Even Aunt Jing no longer protected her as recklessly as before. Instantly, her eyes reddened with grievance, and tears streamed down her face. 12. After breakfast, Daodu sat on the swing in the yard, lost in thought. Meng Qingluo asked her why she wasn't going out to play. I kind of miss Mom. So Meng Qingluo dialed the landline number they had installed for Shenluhua, but no one answered. Meng Qingluo felt a little panicked inside, but forced herself to stay calm. Your mom might be busy. Let's call again later. But after that day, the father and daughter were endlessly busy. Old Mrs. Meng was dissatisfied with Dodo, feeling she still needed more training. From morning to night, dance, music, piano, calligraphy, her schedule was packed solid. Daodu was so exhausted that she cried loudly, but old Madame Meng grew even angrier. Girls from our Meng family are not this delicate. Daodu held back her tears again. That night, before falling asleep, she huddled under the covers and sobbed quietly, clutching the corner of the blanket. When Meng Qingluo discovered her, Daodu only said over and over that she missed her mother. Before bed, my mother always used to sing to me, but Dad can't sing. How about Aunt Jing sings for you instead? Daodu suddenly thought of Aunt Jing's recent behavior and found it boring. Shaking his head, he murmured, Mom is still the best. 13. By the time the father and daughter finally squeezed out time to return to Xinjia village, it was already a month later. Aunt Li, as before, shamelessly came up to ask for favors. Meng Qingluo gave her a big red envelope and asked her what Shenluhua had been up to lately. Is she doing well? She's probably not as petty as before, right, Aunt Li? However, exclaimed in surprise, Lu Hua, she left the very day you did. Meng Qingluo hurried to that old house, pushing the door open. He found it already covered with cobwebs. The courtyard was layered with thick dust. It looked as if no one had lived there for a long time. Meng Qingluo rushed into the bedroom and saw that even the bedding was gone, leaving only a bare pile of straw on the bed. The bank card left for Shenluhua before their departure was now lying in that pile of straw. He muttered to himself, it seems your mother is truly angry this time. When she comes back, just don't say anything that would upset her. Daodu nodded, confused yet determined. 14. After leaving Xinjia village, I also went to the city during the day. I made a few sachets and sold them at a familiar health food store at night. I took on a part-time job teaching at a night school. The pay wasn't much, but it was enough to live on. Soon, I had a small amount of savings. In the past, I couldn't bring myself to buy new clothes or skincare products, spending all my money on her and her father instead. Now, I can finally focus just on taking care of myself. I have more time to read, and more time for skincare. Soon, my overall demeanor improved. My appearance became more and more outstanding. Even the owner of the wellness shop praised me for looking increasingly beautiful. Lu Hua, you've changed so much. Looks like a divorced woman doesn't necessarily have a hard life. What she said isn't entirely true. Mengqing Luo and I never actually got a marriage license. So naturally there was no question of divorce at night school. People started taking the initiative to ask for my contact information. After adding me, they would confess their feelings. Teacher Shen, I really like you. Will you be my girlfriend? But I had no interest in romance at all. My mind was completely focused on how to make myself better until one day, the owner of the wellness shop gave me a call. She said someone wanted to buy my sachet. He said his family never sleeps well and wanted to buy more, asking me how many you have. 15. The shop owner's wife brought him to see me. Looking at the person in front of me, I felt dazed for a moment. His facial features and demeanor strongly resembled Mengqing Luo's. I'll teach Meng Yi. I refused immediately, but Meng Yi was very persistent, coming to find me at the wellness shop every day. Later, he even waited right outside the entrance of the night school. Every day after class, I would see him sitting in the driver's seat of that flashy red sports car, waving at me. Sister Shen, I'm over here. My classmates started teasing me, and my face turned bright red in an instant. Dear sister, please make a few more for me. I'll take them home to win over my mom. Maybe then she'll agree to let me run one of her subsidiary companies. He came every day, rain or shine. By the second month, he went ahead and confessed his feelings. Actually, it doesn't matter if I can't buy a sachet. Sister, just be my girlfriend. My sister is far more precious than any sachet. I nearly spewed out my drink. It was the most cliched yet fervent confession I had ever heard. I was choked for a long moment before I finally spoke. I bring bad luck to husbands. My ex-husband spent 5 years with me living a tough life out in the open, and it left him with all sorts of chronic illnesses. He got better immediately after we divorced. Meng Yi just smiled. That just means he wasn't up to it. What does that have to do with you? Even after saying something like that, he still refused to give up. Instead, he only grew more determined with each setback. This couldn't help but leave me feeling somewhat helpless. I was just about to turn around when his phone suddenly rang. Bro, what are you doing? Stop pushing me. I've been busy chasing after a girl lately. Who? A really beautiful young lady with a lovely name, Shenlu Hua. There was sudden silence on the other end. Meng Yi even wondered if something was wrong with the phone. Where are you? In the silence, I heard Meng Qingluo's voice. 16. In less than 2 hours, I saw the Meng father and daughter. Dada rushed over and hugged me. Mom, I missed you so much. Before, she would only say, Mom, aren't you embarrassed? Meng Qingluo gritted her teeth and said, Shenlu Hua, you're something else. On the surface you don't care about money, but behind our backs you seduce my little brother. Although I had already guessed it, the moment it was confirmed, I still glanced at Meng Yi. I have absolutely no interest in any of you Meng family members. Meng Qingluo froze, then said softly, are you still angry after all this time? Mom, don't be mad anymore. I've missed you so much. Dado hugged me tightly, as if afraid I would run away, but I casually pushed her away. Mom, Dado panicked. Meng Qingluo frowned too. Shenlu Hua, she is your own daughter. How can you break her heart like this? Right, my own daughter. In my past life, she turned her back on me, her own mother. For the sake of so-called wealth and status. Now that I have a new life, what does she have to be sad about? Meng Yi finally realized. So she's the sister-in-law you've been looking for all this time. That can't be right. She said she brings bad luck to husbands, that her husband was a poor guy in poor health, and only got better after the divorce. In the end, everyone fell silent. 17. But soon, Meng Yi smiled calmly. It's no big deal. What era is this? Divorce is perfectly normal, bro. If you feel uncomfortable, I can move out. Meng Qingluo said coldly. Do you really think Mom would agree to you chasing after your sister-in-law? Meng Yi raised an eyebrow and said, ex-sister-in-law. Oh wait, you two never even got a marriage license, so she's just an ex-girlfriend, right? Besides, you don't want her, so why can't I? It's not like I'm trying to be the Meng family heir. I couldn't help but smash the glass in my hand. Shut up. All of you, get out. I threw all 3 of them out. But then, as if competing with each other. Each of them found a place to live near me. She shows up at my doorstep every day like she's clocking in for work. Sometimes she says she wants to drive me to class. Other times she rushes to the wellness shop to bring me a sachet. Daodu has repeatedly cried about her life in the Meng family. Old Mrs. Meng doesn't like her, and Yan Jing is too busy currying favor with old Mrs. Meng to look after her. This makes her very unhappy living in the Meng household. After all, she is my own flesh and blood. Hearing her cry, I still feel a bit soft-hearted. Mom, can I stay with you instead? I don't want to go back to the Meng family. I waved my hand and said, my place is too small to fit 2 people. She lowered her head in disappointment. Meng Qingluo hugged Daodu affectionately, feeling distressed. Lu Hua, some things are in the past. Let's just live well together as a family, I sneered. I used to want us to live well together as a family too, but didn't you think I wasn't good enough for you? The father and daughter were stunned for a long time. I didn't care that much, though. I simply closed the door. After a while, it suddenly began to rain outside. I watched the father and daughter walk away under an umbrella, one tall and one short. For a moment, I felt dazed. I used to often watch them leave from behind like this, only this time it felt different. So this is how wonderful it feels to live for yourself. 20. A few days later, Yan Jing arrived. She was waiting for me outside the night school. And as soon as she saw me, she raised her hand to strike me, but I grabbed her wrist and shoved her away. Shen Lu Hua, you slut, how dare you seduce my husband? Meng Qingluo caught up from behind her, with Daodu in tow. Don't you talk about my mother that way. This has nothing to do with Lu Hua. For the first time, the Meng father and daughter chose to defend me clearly. After returning to the Meng family, Yan Jing couldn't wait to achieve her goal and had revealed her true nature. This was what made the Meng father and daughter so repulsed. Yan Jing's eyes reddened. But Qingluo, if you keep refusing to focus on the group, Mom will only get angrier. Meng Qingluo was non-committal. What she needs is someone who can smoothly inherit the group after her death. Right now, she just wants a puppet. It doesn't matter who it is. It seemed there really was no end to the conflicts and gossip in wealthy families. For a moment, I was relieved that I hadn't been the one to go with the Meng family back then. Suddenly, Yan Jing knelt down in front of me. Lu Hua, let go. What you're doing is bad for both Qingluo and Daodu. I find it a bit ridiculous. It's clearly the father and daughter who are entangled here. So why are you telling me to let go? Is it just because I don't come from a wealthy family? I looked at Meng Qingluo. If you don't want me to feel sick at the sight of you, then leave now and give me some peace. Meng Qingluo was stunned. I had never said anything so harsh and hurtful before. It was a long time before he spoke. Do you really not love me anymore? Do you really hate me this much? I don't hate you, nor do I love you. I just want to live my own life, a life without you in it. Meng Qingluo let out a deep breath. Daodu's tears fell in big drops at first, and she refused to leave no matter what. Meng Qingluo hoisted her up and shoved her into the car. Only when the car had driven far away did I finally relax. I turned around and was about to head home, but then I saw Meng Yi standing under a tree with a complicated expression. Sis, before I could say a word, he had already let out a resigned smile. I know, you don't want to see anyone from the Meng family. I've already returned the house. After taking a few steps, he turned back and smiled at me again. Sister, you're really beautiful. I like you a lot. It's such a pity we couldn't have met earlier. His figure faded into the distance, finally disappearing around the street corner. After that, I never heard from them again. Only once, when I happened to return to Xinjia village, I overheard them talking about it. It was said that Yan Jing was driven out of the Meng family. It turned out that when her mother took her to the city, it was to engage in the flesh trade. After falling ill, she was forced to return home to recuperate. She had always schemed to marry into a wealthy family, but in the end, she never expected that the Meng family had fully investigated her background. She also lost the favor of the Meng father and daughter. Years of painstaking scheming amounted to nothing more than drawing water with a bamboo basket, but I never saw her again. I am not interested in how they end up either. I just want to live for myself for the rest of my life, getting better and better, living more and more wonderfully. The end. That's the first story for now. Don't go away. The next stories are even more exciting. After learning that my military husband still had an unattainable first love he could never let go of, I voluntarily applied to have my household registration revoked and joined a top-secret national scientific research program. Before leaving, I decided to get along well with He Chongguang and become the perfect wife he hoped for. On the 7th day before leaving, he asked me to give up the master bedroom to the first love, so I took the initiative to move to the second bedroom to make room. On the 6th day before the end, he insisted on picking up his first love even if it meant leaving me in the rain, so I wisely got out of the car and didn't get in the way of his playing the hero. On the 5th day before the end, he went to accompany his sick first love instead of going to the movie we had planned to watch together, so I decided to leave early and completely make way for them. When he realized I had disappeared, he panicked and ran to report it to the police, causing a huge commotion. But the police said, "There's no such person as Zhuang Xia, your marital status is still unmarried. This top-secret project will be launched in 1 week. By then, all your information will be erased, even your family must keep it confidential. It will be as if Zhuang Xia never existed in this world. Zhuang Xia, won't you miss your husband and son?" When my application was received, even the director was stunned for a long time, because before this, I had always valued my family above everything else. I was silent for a long moment. They already have the people they care about by their side. I feel the country needs me more, all because He Chongguang was the youngest special forces captain in the southeastern military region. With the awareness of being a military family member, I voluntarily gave up scientific research and willingly became the backbone of his family. But I didn't know until later that he had a privileged lover outside, someone he spoiled without limits. Before picking up the pen to sign the confirmation, I asked, "What about my marital relationship with He Chongguang?" The director gave an awkward cough. "It will naturally be automatically revoked as well, I'm afraid you." Hearing this, I didn't hesitate for a moment. "In that case, I volunteer to join the Kirin project. I will report for duty on time in 1 week." Seeing my resolute attitude, the director was moved to tears. "Comrade Zhuang Xia, thank you for the sacrifice you have made for our country. Warmest welcome aboard. 1 more week, then I will no longer be anyone's wife or anyone's mother. I will only allow them to have me for 1 more week." After being gone for a whole day for no reason, the only messages on my phone were a few nagging me to cook dinner. No one asked where I was. The night wind chilled me to the bone, but when I pushed the door open, the warmth inside the room was blindingly bright and cozy. Tianjia was playing with paper cutting while holding their son, who, with hatred in his eyes, cut my photo out of the family portrait and thoughtfully stuck Tianjia's onto it. My photo was torn into countless pieces, scattered all over the floor. He Chongguang's silence could be taken as tacit consent. This man, usually full of menace, rarely showed such a relaxed mood, slouching back on the sofa, legs crossed, broad-shouldered and long-legged. His tall, lean frame looked as if it had been cut out by the howling cold wind. He gazed at Tianjia and their son with a tenderness he had never shown me, responding to them from time to time, holding the house. I felt like an intruder who had stumbled into someone else's happy family. When was the last time he came home? 3 months ago, 5 months ago. If I can't remember, I won't force it. After all, this marriage of ours was forced in the first place. Back then, when He Chongguang's father was in danger on a border mission, my parents, who lived at the border, saved his life with their own flesh and blood. At the age when I was just learning to babble, I became an orphan. Father, he immediately declared, "Zhuang Xia is the future daughter-in-law of the He family. The He family will take responsibility for her for life." Orphaned and from a poor background, I knew I was no match for a military family like the He family. As it happened, He Chongguang was injured during a mission and was on the verge of death due to the inability to find a suitable kidney donor. I, being the only match, selflessly donated my kidney to him. Despite his mother's repeated objections, his father insisted that He Chongguang marry me. Little did I know that after the wedding, He Chongguang would avoid me like the plague, and his relationship with his father would fall to a freezing point. I had assumed that someone like him was simply cold by nature, but while I was lying on a hospital bed and during the aftermath of the surgery, He Chongguang was quietly falling in love with Tianjia, the military doctor who tended to his illness, and secretly became engaged to her. It was my own wishful thinking in donating my kidney that destroyed their happiness. Looking at the forcibly pieced together family photo, Tianjia suddenly had a sad look in her eyes. "It's just that having a home is a luxury for me. During my time off, I don't even have a place to live." She had always been good at playing the victim. Tianjia's parents died when she was young. Back then, she went around asking for help, hoping someone kind would sponsor her education. I, who shared her misfortune, worked odd jobs to support her through college, which was also how she met He Chongguang. Jia once tearfully told me that she would surely find a way to repay me. Her way of repaying me was to join He Chongguang's military unit after graduation, become an army doctor, and spend every day by his side. In the unit, Tianjia spread the word that I was a fake philanthropist, that I didn't send money on time and was stingy, an orphaned girl. Yet she presumes to call herself the pampered eldest daughter of the He family outside, utterly vain. Thus, He Chongguang grew even more weary of me and insisted on separating right after the wedding. After a drunken night that produced a son, he thereafter remained chaste for Tianjia, wary of every approach I made. Seeing Tianjia upset, He Chongguang felt pained and quickly suggested that they could temporarily lodge at my place. Tianjia did not stand on ceremony and pointed at my bedroom as if she had already decided. I think that room will do just fine. Following the direction of her finger, He Chongguang frowned slightly, though his expression soon softened. It's not impossible. The son I had raised with my own hands clapped and cheered. Great, great. It would be even better if Aunt Jiejia could be my mom. His tone was so eager, as if he couldn't wait for me to move out right away. He Chongguang wore a faint smile, seemingly helpless yet content. As he patted his son's head, I accidentally made a noise while putting down the keys, and that heartwarming scene was broken by me. My son quickly covered the family photo on the table. While He Chongguang's expression turned cold and distant again, I knew they were waiting for me to explode in anger. After all, I had cried and made a scene countless times over Tianjia's lack of boundaries. To be honest, it's pretty pointless. I looked away indifferently, couldn't be bothered, poured a glass of water and downed it in one go. As if nothing had happened, He Chongguang froze for a moment, then, rare as it was, took the initiative to speak to me. Are you hungry? Want me to make you some noodles? Before, if he'd given me an out like that, I'd have scrambled down the ladder in a heartbeat. After all, I'd wanted to eat his cooking for a long time, but I knew better. Words that seemed caring were actually an attempt to change the subject. Afraid that I'd lash out at Tianjia, I hadn't planned to respond, but He Chongguang's gaze was so piercing that it felt like he would bore through me if I kept ignoring him, so I could only brush him off. Not hungry, just filled up on drinks. Clearly, Tianjia missed He Chongguang's good intentions and stood up, brimming with jealousy. I should go. My son immediately latched onto Tianjia's leg and burst into loud sobs. You're mean, Mom. You chased Sister Jiejia away the moment you got back. Mom should be the one to get out. I want Sister Jiejia to stay. A stifled breath got stuck in my chest. Neither up nor down. He Chongguang lingered, reluctant to let go of the car keys, clearly unwilling to see Tianjia leave. See, I'm the one who's, but it doesn't matter. In another week, I'll be completely out of their way. Letting out the stifled breath in my chest, I forced a faint smile. Since they all want you to stay, then don't go. You can live in my room from now on. Tianjia looked at me in astonishment, and even the usually steady He Chongguang had a hint of shock in his eyes. Only my son, knowing nothing, stopped crying and started laughing. Really? Yay. That's great. A flicker of uncertainty passed through He Chongguang's eyes, and he hurriedly spoke before Tianjia could leave. Never mind. Jiejia is going back after her vacation. I'll just find her a hotel. I won't trouble you. After 7 years of marriage, it seemed I had never really understood He Chongguang logically. Since Tianjia was staying here and they lived closer to each other, he should have jumped at the chance to say yes. Even Tianjia felt hurt by He Chongguang's uncharacteristic behavior, a single tear trembling on the verge of falling. For once, at this moment, He Chongguang's mind was not on Tianjia. His gaze remained fixed on me, as if he had finally noticed that something was wrong with me. Facing his gaze, I smiled with ease. It's no trouble. I've taken a job, and I won't be staying in this room anymore. He Chongguang's deep-set eyes and brows were tinged with annoyance. Oh, where are you off to? Do odd jobs this time? The son muttered under his breath, clearly dissatisfied. All you can do is cook and mop the floor at home. You can't even earn 3,000 a month. If you hadn't married my father, how could you have lived such a good life? My heart felt as if drenched in a glass of lemon water, sour and shriveled. Father, he was rarely home year-round, and the He family had long stopped paying for my tuition and living expenses with my own rough hands. I managed to get into Peking University School of Mathematical Sciences by doing odd jobs. The He family knew nothing about any of this. In 7 years of marriage, He Chongguang kept such distance from me that he didn't even know what job I did. Through 10 months of pregnancy, including the delivery, I went to the hospital alone, supporting my own belly. When a difficult labor nearly killed me on the delivery table, I was the one who forced myself to sign my own critical condition notice. I gave up generous benefits and picked a low-demand role in my team, just to raise my son healthily. Yet my own son sarcastically called me a parasite. In the past, I would have poured out my grievances just to win a shred of sympathy, but now, I simply said calmly, no, I'm going to participate in. Before I could finish, Tianjia suddenly knitted her brows in pain, clutching her stomach. I don't know what's wrong, but my stomach suddenly hurts terribly. He Chongguang immediately looked away from me and knelt on one knee to examine Tianjia's abdomen, growing very worried. Does it hurt here, or here? My son, who used to have me serve him at Mealtimes, nimbly poured a cup of hot water and handed it to Tianjia. Sister Jejia, would some hot water make you feel a bit better? The scene of being surrounded and cared for by my family is a dream I could never reach in my entire life, so they do know how to take care of others. They just don't care about me. I remember this summer was particularly sweltering. After cooking alone, I suddenly collapsed in the living room. My son gave me a dismissive glance and then continued eating with his head down. When I woke up, it was already afternoon. The dim, yellow sunset made the living room look especially desolate. My son was holed up in his bedroom playing games, and on the table were the leftovers of a hastily devoured meal. A week later, on our wedding anniversary, He Chongguang still said he was too busy to come home. My mother-in-law took my son to his enrichment class. I specially prepared a lot of his favorite dishes, planning to bring them to the military base to surprise him. The guard said he had already gone back to be with his beloved. Clearly, that beloved wasn't me. I found out where He Chongguang was from a video on Tianjia's social media feed. At the amusement park, Tianjia wore a playful Mickey Mouse headband and held her son tightly in her arms. The son took He Chongguang's hand and gave Tianjia a kiss on the cheek. From behind the screen came the mother-in-law's voice, "You two lovebirds, give each other a hug." He Chongguang pressed his thin lips together hesitantly, but ultimately smiled softly and pulled Tianjia into his arms. By the time I rushed to the amusement park, I happened to run into them coming out. Having had their fill of fun, I hid behind a tree, just a few steps away from He Chongguang. Over the phone, I could even hear my son's noisy screams and Tianjia's syrupy laughter. How I wished that at this moment, He Chongguang would tell the truth, not lie, but he said, "New recruit training, still busy with that." I bit my lip until it bled, gripped my phone, and answered, okay, this world is full of illusions, only pain never lies." I told myself this would pass, that I wasn't sad, not at all. Without waiting for He Chongguang to lower himself to drive me out, I sensibly retreated to the guest bedroom. Tianjia delightedly went to the master bedroom, and our son insisted on sleeping with her. It seemed that even if I left, my son would still be very happy. That was fine by me. The next day, He's mother finally returned from her trip, bringing back many souvenirs. There were gifts for my son, for He Chongguang, and even for Tianjia. I stood there at a loss, trying to figure out how to thank his mother for her kindness, but even after all the gifts were handed out, she only shot me a displeased glare. "Go make dinner. I've been craving your cooking while I was out. I just can't get used to eating elsewhere." Her tone was exactly like ordering a servant around, which, in fact, she was. In contrast, Tianjia, an outsider, embraced his mother like a real daughter-in-law and pecked her on the cheek. "Auntie, you're so wonderful." His mother stroked Tianjia's hand, looking at her with uncontainable satisfaction. "When you're in the military, I'll be counting on you to take good care of my son." It's true, when people feel awkward, they really do look everywhere but at the person in front of them. Turning her head, her gaze happened to meet He Chongguang's eyes, which seemed to hold an unusual emotion. He glanced at my empty hands and then walked slowly toward me, holding the gift. Was he planning to offer me charity? Just as he extended his hand in front of me, Tianjia rushed over and snatched the gift from He Chongguang, her eyes sparkling with delight. "Wow, I really like this one too. Can you give it to me?" He Chongguang was stunned for a moment, then looked at me. Amid Tianjia's expectant gaze, he finally nodded. "Yeah, okay." After taking the gift, Tianjia looked at me with a triumphant gleam in her eyes. As my thoughts were in a jumble, his mother suddenly gave me a rough shove. "What are you standing around for? Go cook. You don't expect me to do it, do you?" Rubbing my aching chest, I said casually, "When I'm not around, you'll have to learn to cook for yourselves." My son just thought I was putting on airs and scoffed. "Not around, like you're about to die or something," which, to be precise, I kind of was, but seeing what a happy family they made, it seemed my presence or absence didn't really matter. I decided to treat it as the last meal I'd cook for them. Familiarly, I tied on an apron and turned into the kitchen. Tianjia followed closely behind, putting on an extremely virtuous and eager look. "Sister, let me help you." His mother pulled her aside at once, her face full of feigned reproach. "You're a military doctor, one of the nation's own, not someone born to serve others for a lifetime." After saying this, she shot me a glare. I knew she was mocking me for not being as good as Tianjia. If she came to help, all three of us would be unhappy. Why would I seek that discomfort? The shredded pork with green peppers was steaming in the wok when suddenly my vision began to spin in the rising mist. The feeling of weightlessness left me disoriented, and I tumbled straight toward the floor. At some point, He Chongguang had come to stand behind me and pulled me into his arms. Whether it was my imagination or not, I saw his brow deeply furrowed, with pain and panic interwoven in his eyes. Are you okay? Do you need any help? His sturdy muscles pressed against me, warm and burning hot, leaning on the strength of his arm. I barely managed to stand upright and quickly pulled myself out of his embrace. He Chongguang's mother darted into the kitchen as if guarding against a thief and stopped right between us. I could tell the moment I came back. She's just pretending to be too lazy to cook. Just as I was about to explain, Tianjia trotted over to take He Chongguang away, her smile radiant as a flower. Come quick and look at the family portrait your son drew. It actually looks like something. The spatula flew in the pan, but no matter what, it couldn't drive away the image of the four-person family portrait in his son's drawing. There was He Chongguang, there was him, there was his mother, and there was Tianjia. By the time I sat down at the table, the four of them were taking turns serving each other food in perfect harmony. Only scraps and leftovers remained on the table. I, the one who had cooked, picked up my chopsticks but had no idea what to take. His mother, full and content, exchanged a glance with Tianjia, then sat up straight. Zhuangxia, there's something I have to make very clear to you. She brought out two things. It was the same divorce agreement between He Chongguang and me. It was the same bank card with 10,000 yuan deposited in it. You know the status gap between you and my son. Your job is nothing to be proud of. Now that my son has found his true love, my grandson doesn't like you either, and I've long been dissatisfied with you. Hearing this, I already understood. I turned my head to look at He Chongguang. His eyes were lowered, and beneath his long lashes, no particular emotion could be discerned. My heart sank completely. The Qilin project was about to launch. It was time to end everything. I put down my chopsticks. Perfect timing. I have something to say to you too, Mother. He immediately interrupted impatiently, raising her hand to stop him. Save your nagging, I'll speak first. She pushed the divorce agreement and the bank card in front of me. Back then, your parents sacrificed their lives to save Chongguang's father. We are very grateful to you, but we raised you with care, and that debt of gratitude should have been fully repaid by now. Donating a kidney to my son was your choice, not a sacrifice. Besides, my son already did you a favor by marrying you. We don't expect you to repay our kindness. We only ask you to let my son go. If I have to, I'll get down on my knees for you. After saying this, she made a move as if to kneel, determined to force me to sign the divorce agreement. I saw through her act without any mercy. There's no need for theatrics. I'll sign. As He Chongguang's eyes slowly widened in shock, I didn't hesitate to pick up the pen. The moment I signed my name, I even felt relieved. Finally, I no longer had to willingly bear the blame for betraying the marriage. Finally, it was over. Our son raised both hands in the air, cheering with joy. Yay, I can finally get a new mom. Tianjia was so excited that she forgot all about restraint and wanted to take He Chongguang's hand at the first opportunity, so they could fly away together. This divorce cannot happen. He Chongguang deliberately sidestepped to avoid Tianjia's touch and reached over to snatch the divorce agreement. Under everyone's astonished gaze, the agreement twisted, tore, and shattered in his hands, scattering pieces all over the room. Chongguang, what are you doing? Tianjia's face turned crimson with frustration, and she ran toward the bedroom, covering her face. He Chongguang's mother was so furious that she slapped the table. Are you crazy? Isn't this what you've always wanted? He Chongguang's face darkened, and after a long pause he explained, I'm in a critical phase of building my career right now. If we get divorced, how will the leadership see me? How will they see Jejia? I had thought he genuinely didn't want a divorce. In the end, it was all about protecting Tianjia's reputation. Let him be. Actually, even if I don't sign this agreement, it will automatically be dissolved after I leave. Amid the noise and arguments, I stepped out alone. I took a cab to the traditional Chinese medicine clinic I often visit, where I frequently buy medicine for his father. Ever since he was injured, every time it rains or gets windy, he feels a piercing pain in his chest. I asked around among all the relevant experts, and only this family's Chinese medicine has proven particularly effective. Before he even comes home on leave, I make sure to prepare some in advance for him to take back to the barracks. Every time, he affectionately strokes my head with such tenderness that his love spills from his eyes. Xiaoxia, what would this family ever do without you? Father, he is extremely good to me. Every month, he divides his salary into 3 parts, 1 part for household expenses, 1 part for me, and 1 part saved, but the part meant for me was pocketed by Mother he very early on. While others were enjoying the warmth of family by their parents' side, I was wearing my hands raw with calluses on the construction site. But I didn't want to trouble Father he any further, so I scrimped and saved to get through school. This time, I asked the doctor to write down the prescription. After I'm gone, They can still use this prescription to get father his medicine. After buying the medicine, I decided on a whim to stroll through the mall, passing by a cosmetics counter. The mirror exactly reflected my haggard face. My dull complexion completely overshadowed my fine, delicate features. If my parents hadn't died, I'd still be the apple of their eye. I wouldn't have ended up looking so worn down. A sales clerk inside smiled and came over, looking for something. I froze and shook my head. I don't know anything about this. That's fine, you don't have to buy anything, you can still come in for a trial makeup. She pulled me down into a seat, picked up a bunch of things I didn't understand, and started dabbing and drawing all over my face. In the mirror, I saw myself slowly transform, taking on a completely different look, so dazzling, with no trace left of time's wear and tear. See how beautiful you are. A woman just needs to love herself more. I'm not trying to make you spend money here, I just think you're genuinely very pretty. And it would be a shame not to dress you up a little. Yes, if I don't even love myself, who can I expect to cherish me? Not wanting the shop assistant to have worked for nothing. I just bought a lipstick and left. I had been wearing the same clothes on repeat for years, but starting at a new workplace meant I needed to get some new outfits, dressed in trendy new clothes. I truly no longer recognized myself in the mirror. In much better spirits, I walked out of the mall loaded with my purchases. The sky was overcast, the clouds so close they looked like dense, curling smoke. The crowd bustled around, some laughing, some rushing. Blame He Chongguang for being too dazzling. In that sea of people, my eyes locked onto him instantly. He was leaning against the car door in a black trench coat, standing straight and proper, a cigarette between his fingers, standing there naked. One could easily draw the gazes of many passers-by. When he first saw me, he hesitated for a long time before daring to recognize me. The man, who moments ago had looked down on everyone, quickly stepped on his cigarette and paused. I think it's about to rain, so I came to pick you up, as if explaining, afraid I might entertain unwarranted thoughts about his sudden concern. His explanation was quite unnecessary. He Chongguang's ears turned slightly red for no apparent reason. After a long silence, he spoke, you look very pretty today. After all these years of pouring his heart and soul into this home, he had never once bothered to look. Yet now he was generous with his praise, but there were no ripples in my heart anymore. I smiled politely. Thank you, get in, I'll give you a ride. It was my first time riding in his car, and also my last. Pulling open the passenger door, a row of Tianji's favorite Mickey Mouse dolls came into view, and on the seat was a sticker that read Little Cuties Exclusive Seat. I took the hint, turned around, and prepared to get into the back seat. He Chongguang frantically tossed all the dolls into the back seat and deftly peeled off the stickers. Jiejia is young and loves to play, I won't let her do this anymore. He reached out and patted the passenger seat, his tone leaving no room for refusal. Sit here. I didn't want to argue any further, so I bent down and got in. As soon as I was settled, he suddenly leaned over, his arm reaching across my chest, half embracing me in his hold. The faint scent of tobacco grew closer as he reached for the seatbelt by my waist. Whether from nervousness or something else, I could clearly feel his body trembling as he fumbled to align the buckle. I sighed and took it, plugging it in. I can do it myself, he responded indifferently. The crackling downpour arrived in an instant, and the street scene began to blur. I had never sat alone with him in such an enclosed space. I could even smell the clean, crisp aura about him, carrying the stern solemnity unique to a soldier. He glanced at me from time to time, and finally couldn't help breaking the silence himself. What did you buy? Only later did I realize, and set down the medicine in my arms. Oh, it's Chinese medicine for your dad, and here's the prescription. I'll put it in the center console for you. From now on, buying the medicine will be your job. The car suddenly braked hard, catching everyone off guard. He Chongguang stared straight ahead, both hands gripping the steering wheel tightly. His voice was hoarse. Why does it feel like you're saying your last words? Disappearing from this world counts as last words too, I suppose. You don't have to tire yourself out like this. You can tell me. Let me share the burden. He turned his head, his deep and inscrutable eyes flickering from clarity to darkness. Share the burden for me. It must have been the heavy rain that made me mishear. Shuang xia, I replied indifferently. Let's have a talk. But I had nothing left to say. I didn't respond to him. Instead, I leaned my head against the car window and rested with my eyes closed. The clamor of the rain only magnified the silence between us. I was woken up by He Chongguang's ringtone. Even through the phone, I could hear Tianji's grating voice. It's pouring rain, and I'm stuck here. What should I do? Chongguang, I'm going to catch a cold. From the corner of my eye, I glanced at He Chongguang. He was also checking to see if I was awake. This isn't a good time for me. just take a cab. I can't. There's no cab available right now. Forget it. I'll just get soaked. After hanging up, Hee Chong-won was so distracted that he ran a red light. I didn't want to die in his car before I could contribute to the country. So I finally broke the silence. It's fine, just drop me off here, and you can go pick her up. It's not much farther anyway. I can just walk back on my own. It's pouring so hard. Hee Chong-won's expression was conflicted, but in the end he made up his mind. How about this? There's a bus stop ahead, wait for me there, and I'll come pick you up in a bit. As soon as the car door closed, the vehicle sped off and disappeared into the curtain of rain. I didn't look back. I ran to the convenience store nearby, bought an umbrella, and went home alone. See, I can actually take care of myself just fine. After getting back, I started packing my luggage. It doesn't look like I need a week at all. I could leave right now. Yet as I walked around the house, their traces were everywhere. Nothing there seemed to belong to me. Finally, under the cabinet, wrapped in layers upon layers of plastic bags, I found the marriage certificate for me and Hee Chong-won. It showed how much I had treasured it back. Then, in the photo, I had a goofy smile on my face, while Hee Chong-won looked miserable. Even the only memory I had was so unpleasant. The family photo that included me had already been torn up by my son. I flicked the lighter, watching the photo of me and Hee Chong-won on the marriage certificate slowly turn to ashes in the flame. From then on, even when they thought of me, they could no longer find a single trace of who I once was. It's a relief for both of us. How nice. Soon I heard movement in the living room, mingled with Tianjia's sweet, coquettish voice. Chong-won, you're so kind. You always show up by my side the moment I need you. I had long grown used to the couple's public displays of affection, but this time, Hee Chong-won said, you're a guest. It's only right. The living room fell silent. After a while, Hee Chong-won came to knock on my door. I ignored him and pulled the blanket tighter, annoyed that he had disturbed my sweet dream. The next morning, a message from Hee Chong-won was waiting on my phone, sent at 3 in the morning. I was wrong yesterday. I bought 2 movie tickets. Let's go see a film together. Over all these years of marriage, the little romantic gestures he and Tianjia often shared were something I never got to experience. This was the first time he had ever taken the initiative to invite me to a movie. I thought, since I was going to leave, I should at least say something to him. By the time the movie ends, it will be time for us to part ways too. But when the movie actually ended, Hee Chong-won still hadn't shown up. Every time I took it seriously, every time I learned a lesson, every time I was disappointed. It wasn't until the staff had all gone home that Hee Chong-won finally sent a message. Jia got caught in the rain yesterday, and she's sick today, so I'm accompanying her at the hospital. How about tomorrow? I'll ask for 2 more days off and spend some quality time with you. But we don't have a tomorrow. Whenever Jia shows up, he never hesitates to choose her. Even though this time he was the one who asked me out, I had already seen this coming, so I notified the director and the team in advance to come pick me up. When I got home, no one was there. They had all gone to the hospital to accompany Tianjia. Not a single one of us got to say goodbye. I took nothing with me, only changed into newly bought clothes and tidied myself up properly. As the car approached slowly, the director came to greet me with a worried look. Seeming reluctant, he asked me, Xuan Xia, I'll give you one last chance. Are you sure you want to completely sever ties with your family and devote yourself to scientific research from now on? This was a choice I had already made in my previous life. Back then, I chose family and became a housewife without any regrets. As the days and months slipped away in vain, Hee Chong-won grew increasingly weary of me. When my body broke down under the weight of life's burdens, his mother forced me into a divorce, and even my own son found me useless. I watched helplessly as Hee Chong-won and Tianjia got together, so furious that I coughed up blood. As I lay on my deathbed with barely a breath left, Hee Chong-won married Tianjia in a grand wedding ceremony. My son's face was full of mockery and disdain. You should have died long ago. You've held my dad and Aunt Jia back for all these years. Upon hearing of my death, his father, who had been kept in the dark for so long, coughed up blood and rage and died right in front of my small grave mound. In this life, I will never repeat the same mistakes. Hee Chong-won, this time, it's me who doesn't want you anymore. I looked at the director with a determined gaze. Please trust my resolve. Organization. I will dedicate my entire life to the nation, without regret or complaint. The director's eyes grew moist as he took my hand. Comrade Xuan Xia, no, your code name now is Red Eagle. Welcome to the Kirin Project. You are now one of us. The moment I got into the car, I was completely cut off from their world. The car drove for a long time, weaving through neon-lit skyscrapers and bustling crowds. It passed mountains and streams, finally disappearing deep into the remote mountains. From then on, we go our separate ways, each finding our own peace. Without disturbing one another, the whole He family was busy taking care of Tianjia. By the time they returned, it was already evening. Several days later, I used to always wait for them to come home, with a warm meal ready. This time, He's mother knocked on the door for a long time, but no one answered. She was so angry she yelled, "This lazybones, going to bed this early, knocking for so long and still not opening the door." The few of them were outside, stamping their feet in the cold, and finally managed to wait for the locksmith to arrive. When they pushed the door open, the house felt quiet and desolate. They left exactly as they were, and they remain exactly the same now. The unwashed dishes lay still in the sink, covered in a layer of mold. The son cried out in hunger, "Why didn't Mom cook? I don't want takeout anymore. I want Mom's home cooking." Mother, his heart ached for him, and she launched into another round of scolding. "Where the hell is Xia? Not cooking dinner. She's asking for trouble." A faint unease began to stir deep in He Chongguang's heart. Wiping his finger on the dust on the windowsill, it was clear no one had been home for days. An overwhelming fear seized him like the night itself, and finally he remembered, "I promised to watch a movie with her, but I forgot. She's not mad, is she?" He searched the house several times, even rummaging through the storage room, but couldn't find me anywhere. Tianjia poked her fingers together, looking wronged. "You don't think my sister got upset because you're all spending time with me, and ran away, do you?" His mother pulled open a drawer, tossed my ID card onto the table, and spoke with certainty. "All her documents are here at home. How could she have run off? Is she even capable of that? Besides, she doesn't even have her family home to go back to. Where could she go?" He Chongguang held his phone and dialed my number, but his heart slowly tightened until my phone rang in the guest bedroom. Everything was there, except me. My son, already starving, clutched his stomach and wailed, "No, I want to eat." His mother glanced at Tianjia with an awkward smile. "How about we taste your cooking today?" Having grown accustomed to being waited on by me over the years, Tianjia, though reluctant, quickly smiled again. "Of course, no problem." As soon as she turned around, her expression shifted to one of grumbling resentment, and she dumped half a bag of salt into the pot while cooking. She said fiercely, "I'm going to be your family's daughter-in-law, not your family's maid." As for this masterpiece, the son spat it out after one bite, and his mother rinsed her mouth repeatedly, overwhelmed by the saltiness. Tianjia blinked her large, tearful eyes. "My cooking really isn't good." His mother saw right through it but couldn't say anything. At the dinner table, it was like Rashomon, only He Chongguang sat on the sofa in solitude. He seemed preoccupied, staring blankly at the last message I sent, occasionally walking to the door to look out. 1 day, 2 days, superficial harmony could still be maintained at first. Gradually, even his mother wanted to bring me back as soon as possible. The army had been urging He Chongguang to return, but he would rather disobey orders than fail to wait for me in person. In the end, the family could no longer sit still and went to the police station to report the case. "Comrade officer, I suspect my wife has been kidnapped." Flustered, He Chongguang placed his last hope on the police. The police asked him for my name, height, age, appearance, and workplace. He Chongguang hemmed and hawed for a long time, only to realize that apart from my name, he knew nothing else. Even the police were left speechless. "You came rushing in, saying you were looking for your wife, and I thought you cared so much, but it turns out you don't even know these basic details." He Chongguang's face turned red as he finally remembered to pull out that marriage certificate. The police officer searched the system thoroughly, then gave He Chongguang a strange look. "Is this certificate fake? There's no such person as Xia. Look closely. There's a clear embossed seal right here. Xia is my wife." Having lost all his usual composure, He Chongguang shouted in desperation, "But your marital status shows as unmarried." Then, turning to his mother, the officer advised, "Maybe he's under too much mental stress. I suggest you take him to see a psychiatrist." At those words, everyone fell silent. Not everyone could be hallucinating and imagining a person like Xia out of thin air. He Chongguang stood frozen in place, his usually upright frame suddenly weakening. His son was still truly standing here, yet this marriage seemed to have become a dream to him. It was as if Xia had never really existed. He Chongguang's mother thought for a moment, then her eyes lit up. "Isn't this perfect? You don't even need a divorce. Hurry up and hold the wedding with Jie. You'll still be marrying for the first time." Tianjia shyly twisted the hem of her clothes with her fingers. "It doesn't have to be too grand. As long as I can be with brother Chongguang, I'd be willing no matter what." "When did I ever say I was going to marry Tianjia?" He Chongguang interrupted coldly. The way he looked at Tianjia had never been so cold, as if she were a stranger. "My only wife is Xia." With that, he turned and left, getting into the car. Tianjia kept chasing after him, falling and scraping her chin until it bled, but He Chongguang didn't look back even once. Every possible method had been tried, leaving only one option left. He Chongguang, who had not made a single phone call to his father in years, took the initiative to break the ice and called old Mr. He. Upon learning of the situation, his father rushed home overnight and erupted in a furious rage. "I've been busy at the military barracks, not dead. What have you been doing behind my back? If anything happens to Xiaoxia, I will cut ties with all of you." He pointed at his mother's nose, gnashing his teeth in hatred. "If Xiaoxia's parents hadn't saved me back then, you would have been the ones left as widows and orphans, and you still dared to pressure her into a divorce." He glared at He Chongguang, murder in his eyes. "If Xiaoxia hadn't donated her kidney to you despite her frail health, you'd have been 6 feet under long ago." With that, he slapped his son, the son he had always cherished, hard across the face. "When your mother was in labor with you, she had complications and unhesitatingly told the doctor to save the baby instead of her. Who are you to despise her? And you," he gritted his teeth, pointing at Tianjia, "you knew full well that my son is already married, yet you still entangled him, despite being a military doctor. Get out now and never appear in my house again." Tianjia opened the door crying, looking back every few steps, but He Chongguang's plea for her to stay never came. No one dared to make a sound, not even the son. Overwhelmed with emotion, his father's chronic condition flared up fiercely, and suddenly, he clutched his chest and sat on the sofa, unable to get up for a long time. As if remembering something, He Chongguang took out the traditional Chinese medicine I had prepared. Looking at those bags of Chinese herbal medicine, father, he could not help but tear up. When he opened the package, a farewell letter written in delicate handwriting fell out. "Father, this is the last time I will call you father. Thank you for taking care of me all these years. I have never blamed you for my parents' death. To sacrifice themselves for soldiers protecting our country and homeland, I believe they did so willingly, without any regret or resentment. The fate between He Chongguang and me has run its course. There is no need to force it. The only thing I cannot let go of is you. Please, I beg you, take good care of yourself and live a long, healthy life. Do not ask any more about my whereabouts. Do not miss me, Xiaoxia." Before he finished reading the letter, father, he had already burst into tears. He raised his hand and slammed the letter against He Chongguang's face. "See for yourself what you've done." He Chongguang hurriedly picked up the letter in a fluster. His eyes, framed by long eyelashes, traced the handwriting, a faint shimmer of tears glistening in them. Clutching the letter in his hand, he lowered his gaze and dropped to his knees with a thud before father. He and I grew up together. I know every bit of his pride and defiance. He has never begged his own father for anything. Even his current remarkable success was achieved entirely through his own hard work, step by step, forged with blood and sweat. But at this moment, he knelt devoutly at his father's feet. "I know I was wrong. I beg you, help me find her. I will apologize to her in person and ask for her forgiveness." Only then did father, his expression soften a little. "You'd better mean it." However, after reaching out to everyone he could think of, father, he still came up empty-handed with no other options. He humbled himself and called his old superior. A while later, a call came back. He Chongguang was full of anticipation, but what he received was a bolt from the blue. The voice on the other end was earnest and grave. "Even someone in my position can't find out. You can imagine what this means. You should understand." He Chongguang's father suddenly understood. He raised his hand and slapped He Chongguang across the face. "You and her. There's no fate left. Stop looking for her. Bury that thought and get back to the army." But He Chongguang still refused to believe it. He couldn't believe that I, loving him as much as I did, could truly have the heart to cut all ties and live worlds apart from him. He searched every corner of the house for traces of my past, and eventually found a discarded cardboard box in the storage room containing my identification documents. Inside were my admission letter to Peking University, my gold medal from the Math Olympiad, and various certificates of honor from international competitions. It turned out that the person he had always looked down upon was actually this outstanding. I gave up all those glorious accolades and devoted myself wholeheartedly to taking care of this home for him, and in the end, it was also he who personally pushed me toward a distant horizon I would never be able to reach. 5 years later, the base was infiltrated by spies, and several researchers died under mysterious circumstances. The organization dispatched its most elite special forces unit to assist us in the evacuation. Even though I tried my best to appear composed, He Chongguang's gaze cut through the crowd and effortlessly locked onto me. A pair of strong hands suddenly seized me, gripping tighter and tighter. Chongguang's eyes grew moist, and his voice trembled. Zhuang Xia, the fellow disciples beside him pushed Chongguang away forcefully. What are you doing? She's my wife. A glint of having recovered something lost shone in Chongguang's eyes, then my words extinguished it completely. Take a closer look. I don't know you, and I've never met you before. After 5 years of tempering, I was no longer as timid and hesitant as before. On the contrary, there was a sharp gleam of competence in my eyes that couldn't be faked. It was a long while before he finally looked down despondently, as if all his strength had been drained. Sorry, I mistook you for someone else. I just miss my wife so much. As he left, he glanced back at me reluctantly. Again and again, in the previous life, I was the one who watched him leave. In this life, he is the one watching me leave. He could only watch helplessly as I slowly disappeared from his sight once more, powerless, anguished, yet utterly helpless. I heard that after returning, Chongguang applied to carry out an extremely dangerous mission. During the mission, he turned all his regret into the strength to kill the enemy like an invincible war god. He repeatedly performed extraordinary feats, until his final moment, dying in battle. The only name on his lips was mine. He left no word for anyone in the He family, but for me alone. He left a farewell letter to my wife. Zhuang Xia, are you doing well out there? I miss you so much. It's been 5 years. What should I do? The more I try to forget, the more I can't help but miss you. When I eat, when I walk, the thought comes to me, you gave me a new life, yet I broke your heart. I've started to hate myself. I wish I could give my whole life back to you. I feel like I have a disease that will never heal. I have auditory and visual hallucinations of the times I had with you. I don't want to wake up. When I saw you again, for one moment I thanked heaven for giving you back to me, but when you refused to recognize me, I understood completely. What once was regretted can no longer be remedied. Perhaps only death can put an end to everything. I am not one to write a farewell letter. Dying for my country is my destiny. By the time you read this letter, I imagine I will have already turned to dust. I will become a star in the sky, or perhaps a piece of data in your computer. I will always watch over you. Your husband, Chongguang. After finishing the letter, I lit my lighter and set it on fire, watching it burn to ash, piece by piece, like the fragments of the past I had cut away. I respect him for his heroic sacrifice for the country, but as my former husband, I will never forgive him. Only later did I learn that after I left, Chongguang had cut off all contact with Tianjia. Tianjia had tried to use their son to cling on, but Chongguang was so ruthless that he even gave up his own child. For 5 consecutive years, he never once left the military. Later, Tianjia was expelled from the army for committing a major offense. With that blot on her record, no employer dared to hire her anywhere. In the end, with no other options, she had to return to her hometown. She had hoped to marry a rich local, but he turned out to be a drunkard. Tianjia was beaten black and blue every day. Her son became much more sensible and would speak of his mother from time to time, his words filled with guilt and remorse. At Chongguang's funeral, his mother fainted from grief and was later diagnosed with hemiplegia at the hospital, but none of this had anything to do with me anymore. I buried my head and continued crunching the data, fully immersed in my own world. From then on, I vowed to dedicate my humble heart to China and give my years to the land and rivers. That's all for today's story. If you enjoyed this video, please give it a like and subscribe. If you have any suggestions, feel free to leave them in the comments section. See you in the next video. Story 2. On the way back from the business trip that ended early, I wanted to give my boyfriend a surprise. However, I accidentally saw the post of an intern in my boyfriend's company. The feeling of home. The picture attached was a photo of a bedroom, but in that picture, it was clearly my home. When I saw with my own eyes that the house had become different, and even strange slippers and toiletries appeared, my mind didn't react at all. Although I had anticipated it, as soon as I opened the door, the air was filled with a perfume smell that didn't belong to me, and the couple dolls hanging on the right side were not in my style. Even in the refrigerator, the smell of durian, which I hate the most, wafted out. I almost vomited and held my breath to pack the culprit in the refrigerator with garbage bags and opened the windows of the house. The kawaii Hello Kitty slippers at home and the pink toiletries in the bathroom formed a sharp contrast to my black wardrobe. When I saw that post, I comforted myself that maybe her preferences were similar to mine, but now that I think about it, indeed it was just the same preferences. I remember this name, Angela, an intern in Daniel's company, a sweet and beautiful girl. I picked up my phone and was about to send a message to Daniel when I saw the message that stopped at what he sent me before going to bed last night. I miss you so much. It would be great if you were here. Good Night, Jesse. Loved Jesse the most. In a moment of daze, I heard the sound of fingerprint unlocking at the door and was so scared that I directly hid in the cabinet of the master bedroom. I was distracted. How could it feel like being a thief when I returned to my own home soon? Daniel's voice came from outside. Whatever you want to eat, I'll cook it for you. Or do you want me to take you out to celebrate today? How could that be? It's your birthday once a year. Of course, I prepared a gift for you. Look for it at home later. It's a surprise. Later, I'll go to the company to deal with some things. You go home and change your clothes. Let's meet tonight. I'll give you half a day off today. Daniel's voice was as gentle as if he was coaxing a child. It was conceivable that the person on the other side was an important girl. I didn't dare to come out of the closet. If it was an ordinary day 3 months ago when we were apart, I would probably have made a big fuss and asked him why he brought someone home. But now I just felt that he had pretended so well. After the phone call ended, there was another phone ringing, but from Daniel's tone, I knew that this time it was his brother. Got it. Why do you care so much? Besides, Jessie isn't here. I'll just restore everything to its original state before she comes back. Are you my good brother or Jessie's good brother? Also, don't call me tonight. I'm taking Angela to celebrate her birthday today. All right. It's annoying enough for me to deal with Jessie. Don't be nagging. My fingers were trembling as I sent a message. What are you doing? Do you miss me today? The other side replied quickly. I miss you every day. Come back and accompany me quickly. Listening to all the complaints about me outside and looking at the pretended love on the text message, I suddenly felt a little tired. I quickly replied, okay. Then I'll come back today. But it was several minutes later that I received Daniel's reply. When you're done with your work, tell me in advance. I'll definitely buy flowers and pick you up early, By the way, Jessie, there's a project to go through tonight. It's very important. I understood the implied meaning in his words. It was to not disturb him during the 3 months of the business trip. There were always times when he was too busy with overtime work to reply to my messages. Every time, I told myself to be more independent, but at this moment, all the trust had collapsed. The moment the door was closed again, I suddenly felt that I didn't love Daniel that much anymore. I packed up the parts of the house that didn't belong to me one by one and called the aunt who collected waste products. But before the aunt arrived, the sound of the door opening rang again, perhaps startled by such a big person as me. The girl's hand that opened the door froze there, but after only a moment of surprise, Angela regained her normal expression. She was standing at the door. And this time I took a good look at the girl's appearance compared to the flustered look when we met for the first time. The girl was wearing a pale dress at the moment, and her long curly hair was scattered on her shoulders, exuding an innocent sweetness. It had been only half a year since the last meeting, but her style had completely changed. She slightly turned sideways, and after entering the door, she skillfully closed the door and changed into her slippers. Those shoes that I hadn't had time to clean up were so glaring at the moment. It was as if this was her territory, and I was the uninvited guest. The corners of her mouth turned up slightly, revealing a sweet smile, but there was a hint of unnoticeable provocation in her eyes. Jessie, you're back. Why didn't you say something in advance? Daniel and I could have gone to pick you up. Seeing that I didn't speak, she added, Jessie, it's such a coincidence that you're back. I was just about to pack up and leave. Her voice was soft, but there was a sense of superiority between the lines. I looked at her coldly, with waves of emotion surging in my heart, but remained calm on the surface. I put the garbage bag in my hand on the ground. The things inside were her items that I had cleaned up from the house. These are yours, right? Angela looked down at the garbage bag, and the smile on her lips became even wider. She slightly raised her eyebrows, and a flash of disdain appeared in her eyes. Oh, these. I was just about to throw them away, since you helped me with that. Thank you. Her tone was relaxed, passing it off in a single sentence. Then she turned around and walked into the room, went straight to the second bedroom, picked up a bag in the corner, took out an exquisite gift box from it, and handed it to me. Her movements were elegant and natural, as if this was her home and I was her guest. Jessie, this is a gift that Daniel bought for me. Can I take it away? Just then, Daniel's phone call came in. Angela glanced at her phone, and before answering the call, her expression instantly became aggrieved, with a glimmer of tears in her eyes, as if she had suffered a great grievance. Daniel, her voice instantly became aggrieved, with a hint of crying, as if she was trying her best to hold back her tears. Today I won't celebrate my birthday with you. You go home and accompany Jessie. I didn't know what was said on the other end of the phone. After hanging up the phone, she picked up her bag and turned to walk towards the door. By the way, Jessie, Daniel Asked me to tell you that he needs to go through a project tonight and may come back very late. Of course, he may not come back either. She walked to the door and looked back at me. Take good care of yourself. I'm leaving first. After saying that, she left without looking back. I just thought it was funny that Daniel actually liked this type at first. He didn't know how many girls he had rejected just because he thought they were very bitchy. When Daniel returned home again, the aunt who collected waste products was carrying big and small bags to leave. After 3 months, seeing the face I had been longing for, the familiar smell approaching made my nose sore. Why did you come back suddenly? Why didn't you say something in advance? I didn't know how to respond to these words for a moment. I never thought that I would need to say something in advance to return to my own home, perhaps sensing that his tone was a bit off. He stepped into the door and hugged me. You must be exhausted. If you had told me earlier, I could have been happy for a long time in advance. He looked at my suitcase that I had packed again and then at the aunt who was moving things out, and words of explanation blurted out. Jessie, don't misunderstand. Angela is just a little girl. It's not easy for her to struggle outside. Some time ago, because something happened at the landlord's house, the house was taken back temporarily. She doesn't have any other acquaintances here. So, as he spoke, he took the remaining suitcase in my hand and handed it to the door. After seeing clearly what was in the suitcase, he became anxious. Jessie, where are you going just after you come back? He cleared his throat to make his words sound more gentle. You just came back. Don't leave. Okay, this is your home. I stopped what I was doing, and my heart softened a little. It was only at the moment when I saw Angela in the company that I remembered that she was the junior sister who had confessed to Daniel several times at the beginning. At first, for fear of my misunderstanding, Daniel would always hold my hand and tell her, I like Jessie and it will never change. There was still a trace of the durian smell that I hated the most in the house, but there was also the man I loved the most in front of me. I don't like the durian smell in the house. I don't like all her things. I expressed my dissatisfaction. I originally thought that Daniel would coax me as he did before, but the words that followed made all the unhappiness in my heart get stuck. Jessie, don't be temperamental. You're not usually at home, and the house is so tidy. It's all Angela's credit. You came back suddenly like this and threw away all her things. The little girl has a thin skin. Just downstairs, her eyes were swollen from crying. My desire to express myself stopped. All right, before the house is thoroughly cleaned, I'll stay in a hotel for 2 days. I took a deep breath and walked towards the door. The pungent fragrance filling the house didn't suit me at all. I really didn't like it, coupled with the lingering smell of durian. It was simply a stinking bomb. Daniel didn't chase after me. Perhaps at this moment, he was satisfied that no one would disturb their date for 2 tonight in the hotel room. After washing up, I sat by the bed and watched the messages constantly popping up on the phone screen, which were from Daniel. Jessie, I was wrong. Don't be angry. Come home, I'll buy you whatever you like. Okay, the project is particularly busy today. I may not have time to accompany you tonight, but come back quickly. I promise I won't make you unhappy again. I stared at the last text message and sneered. He said he was busy, but I knew that his busyness was just to accompany Angela to celebrate her birthday. The sweet little girl was busy celebrating, busy having a birthday, busy enjoying everything that belonged to me, and his mouth that said love Jessie the most was lightly weaving lies. That night, Angela's Instagram moments had a new post, the first birthday spent together. I hope every year will be like this. There were several hearts following the text, as if she was afraid that others wouldn't know what was on her mind. At noon the next day, the doorbell rang. I opened the door, and Daniel was standing outside. He was wearing a familiar casual coat, holding a bag of food in his hand, and wearing a flattering smile on his face. He probably found the hotel where I was staying through the bound mobile phone number and stood there with a face full of sincerity. When we were in love, in order to give me a surprise, he was once a young man who traveled more than 1,000 kilometers to my hotel just to spend the new year with me. Jessie, I brought you something to eat. They're all your favorites. As he spoke, he raised the bag in his hand and opened it for me in a flattering manner. A smell rushed into my nasal cavity again. I didn't move and just looked at him coldly. He didn't seem to notice my estrangement. He put the bag on the table, and after opening it, a stronger smell came over. Durian. Did you forget? I said, my tone devoid of any emotion. What? He looked up and stared at me blankly. Durian is the thing I hate the most. I looked down at the food on the table and even felt a little annoyed. His face instantly changed, and he quickly pushed the bag aside, apologizing with a smile. I'm sorry, I was too anxious and forgot. I'll order something else for you right away. I didn't say anything and my eyes fell on the window. The young man who once queued up for a long time just to buy a meat burger that I casually mentioned now didn't even listen to what I said yesterday. Jesse, I was wrong yesterday. I've asked Angela to find a house by herself. I won't take care of her business anymore. Let's not quarrel anymore, okay? I turned my head to look at him. Perhaps at this moment, he was really afraid that I would leave, but this fear was not because of love, but because he was not used to losing familiar control. I picked up my phone and gently clicked on the surveillance video at home. The picture from last night on the screen pierced my heart like a knife. If it weren't for the collapse of trust, I would never have thought that less than a few hours after returning home, I would ask someone to install surveillance before leaving. Daniel lied. He let Angela stay overnight. He also accompanied her to cut the cake in the living room and fed her the first bite with a smile. Even more glaring was that at the end of the video, Angela's wish was to get his kiss, so he kissed her forehead and then her lips. That woman demonstrated to me in my home facing the camera lens. My hand trembled slightly, but I forced myself to press the pause button and turned the phone screen over. Okay, I looked up at him and showed a calm smile. He was stunned, as if he didn't expect me to agree so easily. I'll come home tonight, but let's break up, Daniel. It was already dark when I got home. The house had returned to its former tidiness and familiarity, but those strange traces were engraved on my heart like brands. Daniel was standing in the living room. When he saw me, a smile that couldn't be concealed appeared on his face. Jesse, you're finally back. He took a step forward, trying to hold my hand. I raised my hand to block him. We've broken up, Daniel. His smile froze, and his expression instantly turned incredulous. What do you mean? There should be a limit to your temper tantrums. I didn't agree to the breakup. I've already said that there's nothing between me and Angela. Do you really have to make trouble? What are you arguing with a little girl for? You've mentioned breaking up twice. I'll forgive you and pretend you didn't say it. Stop making trouble, Jesse. These words stabbed at my heart one by one. I'm afraid even Daniel himself doesn't know, or perhaps he's forgotten once. His love for me wasn't just words. It was the sense of security he showed through actions. I looked at the boy who was once so careful with me, afraid I'd melt in his mouth. But now his face was full of dissatisfaction with me. Even he didn't notice that every time we quarreled, he started questioning me. I've already apologized. What else do you want? Do you look down on me? Are you just with me because he said so much that it drowned out the love he once had for me? I've never doubted his love for me in the past, but the trust has collapsed again and again, and we can never go back to the way we were. I walked straight into the bedroom and started packing my luggage. Jesse, don't be like this. Didn't we talk things out? Talk about what? I stopped what I was doing and looked up at him. Talk about how you were busy with the project last night, or talk about you and Angela cutting the cake and kissing in the living room. His face turned pale instantly. Jesse, I can explain, Daniel. I put down the suitcase in my hand and said word by word, you've told too many lies. I don't want to hear any more. He panicked and took a step forward to hold me. Jesse, I really was wrong. It's not what you think. Enough, Daniel. I interrupted him. From now on, who you're with is your freedom. Daniel didn't say anything. He sat in the living room until I finished packing 1 or 2 suitcases and pushed them to the living room. Then he couldn't sit still anymore. Jesse, this time, where are you going? I smiled. Have you forgotten whose house this is? This time, it's you who should leave. As I dragged the suitcase and handed it to him, I heard Daniel's voice suppressing anger. Jesse, he called out to me, his voice low and aggressive. Freedom, that's your goal, isn't it? Do you think you can act all high and mighty like this? Breaking up, is it because of that person yesterday? I frowned and turned to look at him. What person yesterday? Still pretending, he sneered, a piercing coldness in his eyes. The man in the hotel, isn't he your first love, Mike? Aren't you eager to break up with me just to stay in the same hotel with him? Are you really that desperate to throw yourself at him? First love. When this word came out of his mouth, it was like a rusty dagger, with a sense of deliberate humiliation. Daniel, I never thought that in the end, our love would leave us with no dignity. I stayed in the hotel yesterday because of you. I didn't want to stay under the same roof as your Angela. It has nothing to do with anyone else. But he seemed not to hear me and continued talking to himself. Since we got together, have you always been thinking about him? I've seen it for a long time. Do you think I'm not as good as him? His voice suddenly rose. Jesse, I've seen through your tricks long ago. I felt an indescribable sadness in my heart. What have you seen through? I smiled bitterly. He sneered. You say you love me, but you've never really thought of me in your heart, right? Staying in a hotel and breaking up are just excuses for you to throw yourself back into that man's arms. Daniel, you're really ridiculous." I suppressed my anger and didn't want to argue with him. He was stunned for a moment, as if stung by my indifference. Then his tone became sharper. "If you've never forgotten him, why do you act like you're sad because of Angela?" At this moment, I finally understood that his anger towards me wasn't just because of the breakup, but because of his inferiority complex, because he always thought that no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't compare to someone who was no longer in my life. He only knew how to compare, but he didn't know that my first love was already married. He also didn't know that on the day I chose to be with him, I had completely let go of that relationship. I looked at the Daniel in front of me, the man who once made my heart flutter, but now he was eaten away by jealousy and inferiority, his features distorted. I tried my best to give him a sense of security, just to fill his fragile self-esteem, but now, looking back, I just realized I was blind. Seeing that I didn't explain, his expression was like half of his beliefs had suddenly collapsed. "Jesse, you used me and Angela as an excuse to break up. Who knows if you slept with him yesterday?" Slap. I finally couldn't help it and slapped Daniel across the face. I thought that even if we broke up, the feelings of so many years were real, but I found that I might have never really known Daniel. My eyes turned red, and I pushed him towards the door one by one. "Daniel, when I loved you, you were the only one in my heart, but now it seems that I might have loved the wrong person." I closed the door, and I couldn't hold back any longer. I burst into tears. After years of relationship, it felt like I had eaten a fly, neither able to spit it out nor swallow it. Looking at myself in the mirror with eyes swollen like walnuts, I couldn't help but sneer. This house held so many beautiful memories of me and Daniel. Just a glance and my mind was filled with those fragmented bits of love. The phone rang abruptly at this moment. I glanced at it, sniffed, and pressed the answer button. "Jesse, you're really something. You've been back for 2 days and you've forgotten your best friend. Huh, you're such a guy who values love over friendship." I couldn't help but choke. "I broke up with Daniel." Gina on the other end of the phone was silent for 2 seconds, then said, "What a big deal." "It's okay, Jesse. Tomorrow at my wedding, you can choose any of the groomsmen." "Okay, you're making me feel so bad seeing you cry." But how could I not hear the pity in her words? Before I came back, Gina had said more than once that she would give me the bouquet, so that Daniel and I could receive the new couple's blessings and get married soon. The next day, at Gina's wedding scene, there were familiar faces everywhere. I saw Daniel in the crowd at a glance, and beside him was Angela. Daniel turned his head, as if looking for something. I almost forgot that Daniel was the designated groomsman. It was an outdoor wedding, with purple everywhere. I was brought back to when I was 18. Gina was shouting, "When I get married, it must be an outdoor wedding, with purple flowers and a purple carpet everywhere." I was pulled back to reality by a burst of teasing. "Jesse, today Gina is getting married. Will the next one be you and Daniel? You can't just focus on writing your script. One day, Daniel might run away with someone else and you won't even know." In the crowd, Daniel glanced at me, his face looking unpleasant. I didn't say anything and made an excuse to go to the bathroom to touch up my makeup. As soon as I stepped into the bathroom, Angela appeared behind me. "Jesse, I'm really sorry." Angela walked to my side. While arranging her hair, she subtly emphasized the necklace around her neck. "If I had known you were coming back that day, I shouldn't have pestered Daniel to celebrate my birthday." I ignored her. After touching up my makeup, I pushed the door open to leave, but she followed closely behind. Seeing that this didn't work on me, she then broke the necklace around her neck. Angela had fair skin, and a red mark quickly appeared on her skin. "Jesse, even if you don't like me, you shouldn't cause trouble at the wedding. This was specially bought for me by Daniel. It's the first time I'm wearing it today." After that, she didn't forget to shout behind her, "Daniel." Daniel quickly walked through the crowd. Angela's provocation became more blatant. "Jesse, Daniel doesn't want to marry you, does he? He said you're boring and act all high and mighty, not like me who can give him a sense of security. Oh, by the way, he was with me last night. He said that maybe you were in another man's bed. He. Before my raised hand could land on Angela's face, it was grabbed by Daniel, who rushed over. "Jesse, that's enough. No matter how dissatisfied you are, you shouldn't make things difficult for a little girl in this kind of occasion. You should have a limit to your temper tantrums." Angela is also a guest invited by the host. "Fine, let go." My eyes turned red. Daniel looked at the scattered and broken necklace, carefully picked it up, and promised Angela in front of me that he would make up a birthday gift for her. As he let go, I suddenly pulled off the earring from Angela's ear because it was a tassel style. She winced in pain as I pulled it off and hid behind Daniel. Looking at the tear-filled Angela, she was pretending to be like a frightened little rabbit at the moment. I sneered, "Look clearly, This is what I really did." Daniel's face instantly darkened. He stood in front of Angela, glaring at me. "Jesse, you're going too far." I looked at him, staring at him as he protected Angela. "Daniel, you used to protect me like this." Daniel stood there, stunned, not daring to meet my eyes. After a moment, he tried to hold my hand, but I walked straight past him. "Daniel, we can never go back." Fortunately, the wedding wasn't affected by this farce until the wedding was coming to an end. Gina and the groom stood on the stage, ready to throw the bouquet. According to the wedding tradition, this bouquet symbolizes happiness and good luck and is usually caught by an unmarried female guest. I stood at the edge of the crowd. Everything today made me feel exhausted, especially seeing Daniel and Angela, even though I told myself to let go, but my heart felt like it was being pricked by countless needles, unbearably painful. "Jesse, you must catch the bouquet," Gina shouted loudly on the stage, and even told me to move closer to the middle. I forced a smile, nodded, but didn't plan to reach out my hand. With a strong throw from Gina, the bouquet drew a beautiful arc in the air and fell towards the crowd. The young guests stretched out their hands one after another, trying to catch this bouquet symbolizing happiness. Among them was, of course, Angela. She looked coy, glanced at Daniel, and then squeezed towards me. However, just as the flower was about to fall into the hands of a young girl, a figure suddenly rushed out and grabbed the flower one step ahead. It was Daniel. He stood in the middle of the crowd, tightly holding the bouquet in his hand, looking at me with a determined gaze. The guests around started whispering, and the atmosphere became subtle. "Jesse." His voice wasn't loud, but it clearly reached everyone's ears. My heart sank suddenly, realizing that something was wrong. Daniel held the bouquet and slowly walked towards me. His eyes were full of affection, as if there had never been any rift between us. Obviously, we had just had a huge fight because of a woman. "Jesse, we've been together for so many years. I've never been as certain as I am now that I love you." There was an uproar from the audience. My best friend Gina looked at me with a puzzled expression. "I don't know what he's doing either." I responded to my best friend with my eyes. I looked at Daniel, completely unable to figure out this move of his. "Today, I've thought it through. I don't want to lose you anymore." He walked up to me, knelt down on one knee, and took out an exquisite ring box from his pocket. "Jesse, will you marry me?" The crowd suddenly burst into exclamations. Everyone was shocked by this sudden proposal. The guests stopped what they were doing one after another and looked at us. "Marry him, marry him." There was a round of applause from the audience. It was a scene I had dreamed of countless times. "Daniel, we've already broken up." I left this sentence and stepped off the stage. At the dinner table, Daniel remained silent. Someone mocked me. "Yo, Jesse, now you're playing hard to get. Who doesn't know that for this guy Daniel, you gave up your family business just to accompany him to start from scratch?" My head buzzed. I was devastated. Since I got together with Daniel, he had felt insecure countless times just because he thought he wasn't good enough for me. When I was young and frivolous, I thought love could overcome everything. I gave up my family's business, believing that the man in front of me would be my lifelong reliance. Hearing our mutual friends recount the beautiful memories we had, I silently held back my tears. Looking up, "This guy Daniel often got jealous because of your first love and drank a lot of wine. What was your first love's name again?" "Oh, right, Mike. I heard he got married and had a chubby son. You guys should hurry up." I suddenly understood why Daniel's attitude had a 180-degree turn. It turned out that he knew he had misunderstood me. Looking at his face turn livid as he poured himself one glass of wine after another, I took a deep breath and looked away. I didn't expect my mood to go through such big ups and downs in one day. After the wedding ended, I refused their invitation to the after party. I rushed straight to the parking lot. Before I could get close to my car door, I heard a coquettish voice from the corner. "Daniel, I thought you were really going to propose to her." Angela. The Daniel she mentioned could only be one person. "Daniel, I'm not like her. I'll never leave you." Then I saw Daniel put that ring on Angela's ring finger. I couldn't stand it anymore. When I pressed the electric switch and the car door unlocked, the two people in the corner were startled. After seeing my face clearly, Daniel pushed away the delicate girl in his arms and anxiously grabbed the car door that I was about to close. "Jesse, don't misunderstand. I just had a little too much to drink." Daniel was like crazy, constantly pulling at my car door. "Jesse." I didn't know he was already married. Naturally, I knew who he was talking about, but I didn't care anymore. He was in front of my car, slapping himself in the face, apologizing to me and saying that he would fire Angela. "Daniel." Angela was almost crying beside him, but Daniel just blocked her behind him, for fear that the ring on her hand would be exposed. I was so angry that I almost laughed. "I've written countless scripts, but I've never written one as ridiculous as this. Looking at the man in front of me, I felt a sense of relief at this moment. Daniel, it's impossible for us. And, this inferiority complex of yours, it's a problem that needs to be fixed. I drove away from the underground garage without looking back. The song in the car covered up my last trace of desolation, but it doesn't matter. The desensitization effect will make things better eventually. After leaving Daniel, I devoted all my energy to my new script. Soon, my new script was recognized, and I got the opportunity to shoot a short drama. After my short drama became a huge hit, numerous messages came one after another. Besides praises from family and friends, I also received an anonymous text message. "Congratulations." Just these two short words brought my thoughts back. I remembered that it had been a long time since I'd heard any news about Daniel. Later, I heard that Daniel's company went bankrupt, and Angela found another man. "Is there really no possibility between you and him?" Gina, who didn't know the situation, asked me. "Yes, Jesse doesn't want to settle for less." Story 2.